Trump gave Rush Limbaugh the Congressional Medal of Freedom, and I do think that the only reason he did it, and the only reason he's really going to get away with doing it, is because Rush was just diagnosed with advanced stage 4 lung cancer. So now we're in a position where if anybody says anything about him getting the Congressional Medal of Freedom and how stupid it is and how ridiculous it is, they immediately flip that to, and he's got stage 4 cancer. I guess you're happy that he has cancer. I didn't say that. No, I am anti-cancer. I want cancer to go away forever. I will take a bold, strong stand against cancer, and I don't take pleasure in people's pain, but this isn't about that. I want Rush to not have cancer, but I also want him to not have the Medal of Freedom because that's preposterous. So, Media Matters put together a compilation of some of the stuff that Rush has said over the years. And this is just a little sampling, but you get a sense of who this dude is. So let's watch, then we'll come back and discuss.
It doesn't look like Michelle Obama follows her own dietary advice. I'm trying to say that our First Lady does not project the image of women that you might see on the cover of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. There are plenty of lard-ass women in politics, and they get a total pass on it.
The millions of people a day that you speak to and that you inspire.
Here you have a black president trying to destroy a white policeman. The media has been very desirous that a black quarterback do well. We're interested in black coaches and black quarterbacks doing well. I think there is a little hope invested in McNabb, and he got a lot of credit for the performance of this team that he really didn't deserve. You put your kids on a school bus, you expect safety, but in Obama's America, the white kids now get beat up with the black kids cheering, yeah, right on, right on, right on. So David Patterson will become the massa. Yes. Who gets to appoint whoever gets to take Massa's place. So, for the first time in his life, Patterson's going to be a Massa.
I am proud to announce tonight
they have discovered that Obama does have slave blood. It's preposterous that Caucasians are blamed for slavery when they've done more to end it than any other race. If any race of people should not have guilt about slavery, it's Caucasians. Put it to you this way, the NFL all too often looks like a game between the Bloods and the Crips.
You will be receiving our country's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
The way this can all be worked out, Clyburn's new position, driving Miss Nancy. In the end, Powell will vote for Obama. There's no doubt of it. The titular head of the Republican Party, the ideal model Republican, will vote for Obama. Melanin is thicker than water, folks. The salesperson obviously thought that the Oprah couldn't afford the, $38,100 bag. Maybe it's because the Oprah's fat. Well, that's another. How was the Oprah dressed? I mean, she didn't look like the Oprah, obviously. And was she wearing a jumpsuit with tennis shoes, maybe Air Jordans that were not laced up? I mean, who knows? You find yourself staring, looking at, casually glancing at a woman. But you know that it's now socially taboo. You shouldn't be doing it. And you think everybody is noticing you doing it and condemning you in their mind. You shouldn't be doing it. So you walk up to the woman and say, would you please ask your breasts to stop staring at my eyes? Franklin has all shot about Barack Obama.
Barack, the magic Negro, lives in D.C. The LA Times, they call him that cause he's not authentic like me. Yeah, the guy from the LA paper said he make guilty whites feel good.
Congratulations.
Now, I got to be honest with you guys. I was going to splice together my own Rush Limbaugh compilation, but I decided I'll just use the Media Matters one because there's so much going on with the Iowa caucus and 1,000 other things that I didn't have, 3-4 hours to spare to try to put together my own compilation. But if I were to put together my own compilation, I went through Secular Talk clips that have covered Limbaugh over the years. And let me just give you a little sampling of what's in those. So recently he said that hurricane warnings are a hoax. That would have made it into my compilation. He says climate change is a hoax on a regular basis. He thinks evolution is a hoax and the Big Bang is a hoax. And he said this very clearly on his show time and time again. Perhaps more importantly, he's argued for deregulation ruthlessly over the years. Huge defender of Wall Street deregulation, huge defender of tax cuts for the rich. And he's argued that basically every war we've gone to is moral and just and the right thing to do. He was the biggest George W. Bush apologist and defender when he did the Iraq War, the illegal and offensive Iraq War. He was defending it to the hilt, even up until Donald Trump was running for president and he was running against the war. Rush Limbaugh was hesitant to get on the Trump train, and that was one of the reasons why, is because Trump bucked orthodoxy when he was campaigning on issues of trade. He sounded more protectionist, and he was bashing NAFTA and whatnot. Rush Limbaugh's a huge free trader. Huge free trader. So Limbaugh's a free trader and a neoconservative. His whole thing is, I just defend the Republicans, full stop. And even when it became clear that Trump was going to win and he had the most power, he then kissed Trump's ring. And all of a sudden, Trump has never been wrong about everything. But in the early stages of the 2015-2016 Republican primary, he was against Trump because he's a free trader. He didn't like the protectionist talk, and he loves the wars. And also, the biggest torture apologist we've ever seen in media, ever. He literally would go on for days when the torture scandal broke about how there's nothing to see here. So those are some of the things that would have made it. And again, I have videos for all this stuff, but these are the things that would have made it to my compilation. I think with the Media Matters one, they kind of leaned a little too much in the, SJW-ish camp with some of the things. Like, he's just, one of those is just a gross dad joke where he's talking about, like, breasts. Like, that's the kind of stuff that at Media Matters are like, oh, my goodness. I'm not really that offended by that. I mean, I do think that, don't get me wrong, I think Rush is a bigot, but that is not like what I would put in his top 5, 10, 20, or even 100 things he said that's like outrageous. Now, the final point is, and you saw plenty of examples of this here, he's a race hustler. That's what he is. What's so funny is, like, the thing he accuses so many people on the left of being is what he is. Guys, Rush Limbaugh, one of the fundamental cornerstones of his show is white identity politics. It's white identity politics. It's, as you pretend like you don't care about race and you're above it all, and it's only those left-wing people and black people who are so obsessed with race all day long. White identity politics on Rush Limbaugh's show. So he really represents a dying breed of conservative thinker. If you could even call him a thinker, because I think he's a giant moron. But it really is like a dying breed. There's a there are multiple new kinds of conservatives that have become much more dominant strains of thought in the movement. And he's literally, the strain of thought that he represents is called movement conservatism. And he doesn't seem like a religious dude, but he's a big panderer to the evangelicals. So very, very dying breed of conservative. And honestly, as far as breeds of conservatives go, one of the worst breeds of conservative, Rush Limbaugh is. And I mean that. Just like consistently wrong about everything. About everything. Thankfully, you see, a rise in other... There was a rise in the libertarian movement on the right, which is a much better conservative strain of thought, with Ron Paul in 2008. Now you see this pseudo-populist movement. You have, guys like Sagar and Jetty on Rising on Hill TV, where they actually do have some left-wing economic beliefs. So they're just like more evolved, more interesting schools of conservative thought. But Rush Limbaugh, for decades, was a leader in media, definitely throughout the 1990s, early 2000s as well. But funny enough, now he's never been more irrelevant. But what Trump is doing here is really red meat to the base because, you know, Trump is a good politician in terms of how he sells himself and how he coalition builds. I mean, I know nobody will tell you that on mainstream media, but it's true. And what he's doing here is he's solidifying that base of support like the old angry white dude. He's solidifying that they come out for him in the 2020 election. I mean, this is one of 1,000 things he's done that does that, but this is definitely what that is. The Democratic Party routinely stabs their base in the back. The Republican Party never does. They always throw red meat to their base, and that's exactly what this is right here. So, you know, it's a clever political move, man. Clever political move. As there's a bunch of fuckery going on in Iowa where, you know, it looks like they're trying to screw the candidate who has the support of the base, Bernie. Exactly at the same time that's happening, Trump is throwing red meat to his base by giving Rush Limbaugh the Medal of Freedom during the State of the Union. Really wild that this guy has it. And I'm not kidding when I say I think that him giving the Medal of Freedom to Rush Limbaugh, Trump doing that, it actually does cheapen the Medal of Freedom. And I'm pissed because Tiger Woods just got one. And I'm Tiger Woods' #1 fan. I love Tiger Woods. And the fact that, like, now Rush Limbaugh also has one, I think, forget Tiger Woods. And again, I'm the biggest fan of Tiger Woods, but Congressional Medal of Freedom, didn't, like, Rosa Parks get it? You can't, come on, man. You can't give it to Rush Limbaugh. It's just it cheapens it. It really does. Because this guy is, on top of being a bigot, which is the obvious point, he's just objectively wrong about everything he's ever said. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. I'm not kidding. I've literally never turned on Rush Limbaugh's show and thought that's a decent point. Ever. Sam Cedar used to do a segment called Random Rush where he would turn it on for like 30 seconds or a minute and then respond to it. And it's like, he was doing that because he knew damn well, if I play anything on his show, it's going to be ridiculous. And it's just a shame that dude brainwashed an entire generation. But thankfully, his power has waned. And Trump said, he talks to millions of people. The way they calculated those numbers, even back in the 90s when they did, was total BS. Now, I'm not kidding, guys, next to nobody's listening to him. Nobody. He got kicked off of his flagship station here in New York years ago. And they were playing dead air in between. Ever since the Sandra Fluke thing in, like, early 2010s, he's had, like, nobody listening to him. But through the 1990s and the early 2000s, he was pretty influential. But even at his absolute peak, it was only like maybe 1 million people who listened to him. And that's stretching it. So, really, really sad thing. The guy's a total moron. But I don't wish cancer on anybody, so I will end on a positive note and just say that anybody who's dealing with cancer, I hope they defeat it.